Sei and Region are an unlikely duo that team up to become professional Gunpla fighters and participate in the World Tournament. Get ready for an action-packed ride in Gundam build fighters filled with mechs, comedy, and a whole lot of entertainment. In a space battle, the Gate X-105B build Strike Gundam takes off from the MSC-07 Albion. Its pilot, Sayori, starts fighting enemy Zakus, but is stopped by his father, who notices a problem with the robot's arm. Sei appears to be defeated by the Zakus, but it turns out to be just a dream.
What?
Sei's mother leaves him in charge of their hobby shop, Iori Models. Sei worries about the lack of customers, blaming the shop's location. Meanwhile, a boy named Rigi is curious about the size of the city. Sei's first customers, a father and son, are impressed by Sei's work and his father's legacy. Sei talks about Gunpla, including the XXG01W Wing Gundam, when a local boy, Susumu Sasaki, challenges him to a Gunpla battle. Sei accepts the challenge, but is defeated by Susumu's OIMS-15 SS Giant. Despite the loss, Susumu suggests they team up for the 7th World Championship, which Sei declines, feeling he's not as skilled as his father. Sei meets Rigi, who knows nothing about Gundam battles but gives Sei a stone for luck. Back at school, Sei struggles to concentrate, thinking of the stone. His mom admires Sei's build Strike, reminiscent of his father's work before Susumu returns, challenging Sei to a rematch for his build Strike. Sei initially gets overwhelmed but gets help from Reiji, who mysteriously masters the controls and defeats Susumu. After the battle, Reiji disappears, leaving Sei searching for him, but he returns the next day, offering to help at the shop in exchange for food. In the morning, Sei heads to school after a breakfast chat with his mom about Reiji, who kicked him out for waking him up. Sei finds Reiji weird, but his mom likes him for enjoying her cooking.
Women.
On his way to school, Sei thinks about asking Reiji to join him in the World Championship. Back home, Reiji asks Sei's mom where he went, surprising her by not knowing what school is. In class, Sei focuses on completing the build Strike before the tournament. At their shop, Reiji is bored because of not having any customers while Sei continues designing the build Strike when President Tatsue Yuki arrives. In the club room, Sei admires Yuki's models as outside. Reiji tries China's food, but is confronted by student council member Montaganda. In the room, Sei explains Reiji's disinterest in Gunpla battle when China bursts in, telling them about Reiji and Ganda's fight, which Reiji wins. Monta complains to Yuki about Reiji, revealing he invited him for his Gunpla skills. Monta challenges Yuki to a Gunpla battle. Despite Sei bringing his build Strike to campus illegally, the fight starts with Ganda piloting a MRC F-20 Sumomo. Reiji defeats Ganda's Gunpla and Yuki challenges Reiji to a match with his Zaku. Reiji rushes in, but the Zaku disarms the build Strike, shocking Sei and Reiji. On their way home, Reiji is frustrated over his loss to Yuki, while Sei worries about their skills, but Reiji reminds him of his challenge to complete the build Strike and fight against it before vanishing, leaving Sei shocked. In a desert, Mr. Rao's MS-07 Gof faces off against Reiji's Gate X-105B build Strike Gundam in a Gunpla battle training session. Reiji easily overpowers Rao's Gunpla, so he reminds him that the build Strike belongs to Sei. Ignoring Reiji asking for another match, Sei, feeling down, pulls Reiji away to his room to ask who he is. Using simple crayon drawings, Reiji reveals how he was the Crown Prince of Arian, a kingdom in a parallel universe, who accidentally ended up on Earth while exploring his castle's treasure room. Sei remains confused, even checking if Reiji is sick. Despite Reiji's protests, Sei asks for more proof, even asking for magic tricks. Defeated, Reiji returns to the store, informing Sei of his break, surprising him. During dinner, Sei discusses Reiji's story with his mom, who also doubts it, but says they need Reiji to win the World Championship, which he agrees to, inwardly focusing on completing the build Strike. In the next few days, he finishes the build Strike while wondering where Reiji is. One night, Reiji meets Mr. Rao in a street and learns about an underground club of Gunpla fans. Introduced to the club, Reiji selects a weak RB-79 ball for a battle, but effortlessly defeats the members before recognizing and challenging Riccardo Fellini, the Italian Gunpla battle champion. After a dream about his father, Sei is woken up by China, informing him about the art room being closed before he shows her the completed Gate X-105B/FP build Strike Gundam full package. As Sei and Reiji win another match, two boys look at the recordings and one of them remarks that Sei building such a strong Gunpla isn't a surprise since he's the son of Takeshi Yori, but their design is clearly much better. Later, Sei's mom asks him to help her find a Gunpla for her since she isn't able to. Surprised by the customer's attractiveness, he hands her the Gunpla and excitedly starts talking about it with her.
Yeah, boy.
China excitedly walks towards the store, remembering how Sei had offered to build her gunpla with her, but upon seeing him talking with the girl, she dejectedly walks away. Later, Reiji asks Sei if he's got a crush on the woman since he seemed to be really hitting it off with her, but he blushingly denies this and says she was one of the few people he's met that are so passionate about Gundam. The next day, he greets China at school and notices she's a bit off, but she says it's nothing. After school, she's happily walking towards him, but sees Sei run into the girl, Mihoshi, and walk away with her. China asks Yuki if he's seen her before, and he remarks that he might have seen her at a gunpla battle venue, but doesn't remember correctly. So he shows his gunpla to Mihoshi, but runs away to the bathroom before coming back a while later to see Kosaka's talking with her. As he approaches them, Mihoshi politely gives his gunpla back and walks away. Later, Sei and Reiji face off against their new opponent, an idol named Kurara, who effortlessly chops off an arm and leg off their gunpla. Sai realizes it was Scratch and that Mihoshi is actually Kurara, who cheated by scratching his gunpla when he showed it to her. But he and Reiji swiftly manage to defeat her by using their hidden gimmick. As the battle ends, Sei makes up with China and offers to build her gunpla at this store, which she happily agrees to. Mr. Ral shows Reiji and Sei at gunpla, which they excitedly admire before Reiji asks him to fight them, but he explains that there are many different uses of a gunpla than just fighting and tells Sei about a boy who's just as strong as him. Later in his room, Sei tries searching up the boy's works and tells Reiji that he's worried they'll lose to Yuki, so he wants to not just fix the gunpla at this time but add something to it. China thanks Sei for teaching her she can build models, and they head to her father's store where they see a boy offering a gunpla as payment. Sei admires its details in shock despite the boy claiming he made it last minute. As they're walking, he reveals his ambition to become the best gunpla builder in the world and how he wants to meet Sei Iori. Surprised, Sei discloses his name and takes the boy to their store where he remarks that Sei's work isn't creative enough. Offended, Sei decides to show his best work, and both the boys bring out their finest models. Shocked at each other's work, the two start having an imaginary battle that is disrupted by Mr. Rao, who says this battle should take place in the world tournament, so Sei says goodbye to the boy Mao. Later, he and Reiji effortlessly win their fourth battle and prepare to face off against Yuki soon. Sei hurriedly runs through the school hallway, remembering how it was announced that Yuki has withdrawn from the tournament in the fourth round, declaring Sei and Reiji winners by default. He bursts into the student council room to confront Yuki, but only sees Ganda standing inside, who reveals that Yuki has taken an indefinite leave from school. Later, Reiji dismissively remarks that he turned tail and ran, but they're a step closer to winning the tournament now. He stands up and angrily questions why he was so excited to face off against a loser like him before running away. Later in their match, he recklessly takes a lot of damage but manages to slash their opponent into two and win. Seeing this, Mr. Rao remarks that they won't be able to easily win the finals like this, and China worriedly says not being able to play against Yuki must have affected them a lot. A few days later, Reiji meets Mr. Rao in the market and looks at some children playing with gunpla before running into Yuki. He hurries back to Sei's house and asks him to please lend him the gunpla. Sei smiles and agrees but wants to go battle as well. They meet Yuki in the school gymnasium and begin their intense battle, ending with a powerful clash which China, Mr. Rao, and Fellini watch in awe. Later, as they're walking back, Sei and Reiji admit that they terribly lost but vow to win next time, and Sei surprises him by revealing that he built another gunpla for their battles. In their final match, they face off against a veteran named Kato and excitedly begin. As Sei and Reiji start fighting, Kato uses his remotely controlled models to attack them, but they swiftly defeat them and rush in as Reiji says quantity isn't better than quality and wins. Later, as they're in their car with Sei's mom, Mr. Rao, and China, he remarks that he didn't expect the prize for the qualifiers to be a free trip, and China worriedly asks if it was okay for her to come. They jump into the sea at the beach as Sei's mom and China come out in their swimsuits. Reiji closely examines both their chests before starting to console China and getting punched by her. They later head to their inn where they're surprised to see Mao and learn that all the winners from the qualifiers tournaments will be staying here. Mao keeps helping the owner, Misaki, with the inn's chores and starts squabbling with Reiji before they head to their rooms. Later, Misaki politely thanks Mao for helping her before a car crashes into the inn and three guys approach Misaki and her mother, warning them to sell the land. Mr. Rao recognizes their leader as Tatsuzu, a former gunpla fighter, so Reiji, Mao, and Sei challenge him to a duel of the rights of the land. As the battle begins, they initially get overwhelmed and trapped by Tatsuzu's Apsilus, but Mao uses his satellite beam to significantly damage the Apsilus before Reiji and Sei rush in and blow it up, winning the battle on the land. Later, Mao leaves after getting thanked by Misaki, and Reiji and Sei excitedly get ready to win the world tournament. Plasky particles are particles that react with the plastic gunplas are made out of to generate attacks like beams and missiles. A boy demonstrates this to his teacher and says he intends to discover the secret behind them. Fellini goes to meet Greco Logan, a semi-finalist, and sees his gunpla, remarking that it's impressive, but Greco says his opponent named Nils Nielsen is really strong this time, while Nils researches Greco's gunpla and plays style and decides to use something he didn't want to. The girl named Ayla is introduced to the president of the Nemesis team, who refuses to believe in her strength and calls their strongest fighter to see what she's got. Meanwhile, Sei, holed up in his room, remembers how easily Tatsuzu was able to initially block their attacks and how strong Mao's satellite beam was, and decides to add something to the suit that will make full use of the Plasky particles. Ayla swiftly overwhelms her opponent before stabbing through his head and becoming the team's main fighter. As another match begins, Greco walks towards the stage as the announcer appreciatively calls out his subtle play style despite him looking so aggressive. As Nils walks towards the stage, the announcer acknowledges how he's got 3 figgies, and the battle begins with Nils showing off his new gunpla. Greco says he has to fight someone at the final, and Nils answers that he also has a motive, refusing to back down. He effortlessly overpowers Greco before using a swift move to finish the match, which Fellini watches in shock from afar. Meanwhile, Rigi keeps badgering Sei, who annoyingly tells him to leave him alone. A girl, Caroline Yajima, stands in front of a building and says she won't be ridiculed any longer before whipping around to face her long-term rival, China. They head inside the exhibition, and China proudly sees that her painting has received first prize, but realizes China's painting has received the grand prize, and her secretary informs her that it's a gunpla, toys inspired from the famous Gundam anime. Later, China receives a call from Sei's mom, who asks her to get Sei to come out of his room since he's only been working on his gunpla recently. So China tells Sei that she's built a gunpla, surprising him as he asks to see it. They go to a park where he admires her teddy bear gunpla before they run into Caroline, who invites China to a girl-only gunpla fighting championship. Seeing this, Rigi offers to teach China how to pilot a train, and they get to work, teaching her all the basics and how one can win in gunpla fights, while Caro takes Nil Nielsen, the gunpla fighter her father is sponsoring, to help her build a gunpla. Later, as the tournament begins, China easily defeats her opponents. Rigid and Sei hurriedly arrive late and see her fighting Caro, whose gunpla Sei says looks too well for a rookie. As the battle progresses, China slowly gets overwhelmed but shocks Caro by trapping her gunpla in gum and throwing it across the field, winning the match. She isn't able to win the championship because of not having the required parts to fix her gunpla, but gets second place, and Sei thanks her for teaching him how creativity also matters in gunpla. Later, she calls his mom and asks her to not be worried about Sei, because he'll surely build a great gunpla. Everyone finds out that the well-known Carlos Kaiser lost a Nemesis main fighter and wonder who was strong enough. Rigi wearily crawls out of Sei's room and tells Mr. Rao and Sei's mom that their new gunpla is amazing. The world tournament begins, and the host, who turns out to be Carrara, explains the rules. Later, Sei and Rigi are about to leave with Mr. Rao, but China quickly arrives and gives them both good luck charms. They arrive at the players' village, and Sei hurriedly starts getting ready at nice, since they're supposed to attend a banquet for the players, but Rigi refuses to wear the suit and swiftly deserts him, ready to spend all the money he has outside. Sei nervously examines the party from the corner before meeting Mao and Fellini, who praises their gunpla, but quickly gets distracted upon meeting Carrara and leads her away. Meanwhile, Rigi is unable to get any of the snacks he wanted and finds out that all of them were taken by Ayla, so he chases after her, but they accidentally drop the single dumpling they have into the river, after which she snidely leaves. Later, the rounds in the tournament begin, and Sei and Rigi arrive late for their first match but swiftly erase their opponent's attacks before defeating him, which Nils watches in shock, and Ayla acknowledges that they're strong. As Meiji Kawaguchi begins his fight, China recognizes him as Yuki and wonders how he's here when he's withdrawn from the qualifiers. Meiji easily overwhelms his opponent and defeats them in a matter of seconds, but as he's walking back, Rigi and Sei confront him and ask if he's Yuki. He denies this, so Sei tells him to show his face. In answer, he boldly takes off his glasses, and they easily recognize him as Yuki. In their room, Rigi asks who Meiji Kawaguchi is, so Sei explains that he was a legend who completely revolutionized model building. Meanwhile, Alan, Yuki's secretary, tells him that he might face off against Nemesis fighter Ayla in the next round and asks why he showed them his face, to which he admits he doesn't know, but inwardly remarks that he showed them his face to show them his determination to win the world tournament. The next day, a battle royale round begins that will end when there are only a third of the players left, and Mao proposes to Sei and Regin that they should stick together since there are so many players, and they start battling a five-fighter. Meanwhile, Nils calmly stays in a forest to not give away his tactics, and Fellini fights Saimer from Germany, who blames him for stealing his girl and sends his lackeys to trap Fellini, but Sei, Regin, and Mao defeat him together before a large gunpla starts approaching them. As the fighters face the huge gunpla, the chairman of Yuki's organization, Mashita, is told by his secretary that they deploy the automated Zaku to the battlefield. As all the other fighters decide to get out of its range, Sei and Regin Regin wonder what they should do as they keep getting targeted by it. Yuki informs Alan about it as Fellini tells Sei and Regin to get away, but the Zaku keeps targeting them, so they decide to rush in and attack. Nils wonders why they're doing that when this is a battle royale. Yuki starts heading towards the Zaku as well, but Alan tells them that their only objective is to win the championship. Sei, Regin, Mao, and Fellini team up and manage to slash the Zaku's head off, but it takes out its gun and aims it toward them, so Nils helps them from afar by attacking it with a pair of missiles before Sei and Regin end it by showering it with a barrage of attacks and blowing it up. After the round ends, Fellini approaches Nils and asks him about the missiles, to which he remarks that he was interested by Sei and Regin's gunpla and will surely win against them. As Sei's fixing his gunpla, he notes that two of their hidden tactics have been revealed now as Regin starts squabbling with Ayla in front of a store before stepping in front of her to protect her from three rowdy-looking boys. Sei goes to pick China and Mr. Ral up as Regi slowly washes his swollen hand, remembering how he blocked the bully's attacks. He lies down on the grass, thinking of what Sei and the others must be doing before Ayla approaches him and says he didn't have to show off and help her. He answers that he wouldn't let a woman fight, so she blushingly thanks him for his help before walking away. Sei and the others approach him, asking who that was hearing, which he admits he doesn't know her name. Later, the third round begins, which will be a one-on-one fight with specific weapons designated to players. Sei gets the number 44, and they once again face off against the Thai player Luan. As the round progresses, the others swiftly win their matches, and Sei and Regin are transported to a baseball field where they have to pitch. Luan knocks it out of the stadium on the first ball and destroys their arm on the second, but Regin asks Sei to let him continue even with his swollen arm and swiftly defeats Luan. Luan praises them and says they should have another battle soon, to which Regin says they'll win again. If you enjoyed the recap, make sure to like and subscribe for even more anime content, and don't forget to comment what your favorite moment was. Until next time, stay awesome, anime fans.